Imagine you're walking in the middle of southern Georgia and you see some hills, some trees, and a field. You don't think anything about it, but actually, this was an ancient civilization called Kolomoki. How the Kolomokians built these hills, why they built the hills, and how it affected their culture were mysteries until now. So today we will learn about how mounds A, B, D, E, and F were built. Not to mention, we'll learn about Kolomokian culture and daily life, as well as compare and contrast the Kolomokians to us. But first, let's start off with some basic information. The history of the Kolomokians. First Indians came over from Asia when Alaska and Russia were connected. Some Indians stayed in Alaska, but others went further south. These early Kolomokians settled down in what is now a small town of Blakely, Georgia. As their culture became more complex, they moved out of the hunter-gatherer stage and into the woodland stage, where they started making jewelry and pottery. But most importantly, at the end of the woodland stage, they built the first mound. However, the mounds were not official until the Mississippian age. Now, we may start our tour of the Kolomoki Mounds. We will start off with Mound A, the largest in the southeast United States.
Mound A is the oldest and the largest mound of the entire area of the southeast United States. It is 325 feet long, 200 feet wide, and 56 feet high.
Quite a height, but the big question is, how did they get all of this dirt? Well, some say that they got it from a gully behind the mound. Specifically, this gully. But some say that even this wasn't enough, and that they removed dirt from around the mound and later filling it in with the excess dirt. Unfortunately, there's no evidence to back up either of these theories, but however they did it, this will forever be the biggest mound in the southeast United States. We will now head on to Mound B, a much smaller mound.
You may not believe it, but behind me is a very small mound. Archaeologists believe that it was used to play games and sports.
That's right. This mound was used to play games and sports such as the one shown here. Although little time was spent at Mound B, we have to move on to Mound D.
This mound is the second oldest in the Kolomoki complex and is the most elaborate. It has 5 burial chambers coated with logs and rocks. Also, radiocarbon dating says that it is approximately 2,000 years old.
Our time with these 3 mounds has come to an end, and we will move on to E, a special burial mound, and F, E's ceremonial mound.
These rocks were removed during the excavation of this mound. The Indians had to bring them several hundred yards away from a quarry. They give us an excellent idea of how the mound was built.
Sure enough, this is the inside of Mound E, which is a burial site, made out of clay and sandstone. Other riches were buried with the chief, including pottery, jewelry, and the chief's wives. Now that we've seen Mound E, we may move on to its ceremonial mound, Mound F. Obviously, Mound F was used for the ceremonies taking place on the chief's burial in Mound E.
This mound was uncovered by William Sears. He reported for it to be 60 feet long by 50 feet wide and as an oval shape. This mound had the first layer of sandy clay, the second layer white clay, and the third and lowest layer inside black loam. This is a common example of a mound not used for burial but instead ceremonies. We think that this mound was used as the ceremonies for Mound E, which was Mound E, the burial site.
We've now seen all of the Kolomoki Mounds, but it's not over yet. We'll get to learn about Kolomokian culture and daily life. But first off, let's learn what helped Kolomokian culture grow.
Kolomoki Creek. It was Kolomoki's main water source and helped the village of Kolomoki grow. It connects to the Chattahoochee River. Unfortunately, modern society has built a dam here so that the creek goes here and there's a lake over there. There are actually 2 mounds under this lake that are even older than Mound A, dating back to the Woodland period.
They use the river in many ways, such as making pottery, trading seashell necklaces, or even farming crops such as beans and corn. They made pottery by gathering clay from the river, rolling it out in tiny strips, and then coiling it together, later rubbing the edges smooth. Corn was the main diet of the Kolomokians. They stone ground it and turned it into hominy grits. Although they ate other fruits as well, such as nuts, berries, and acorns. We also know that religion was an essential aspect of Kolomokian culture because of their depictions in pottery and how they sacrificed themselves to the dead chief, but also an observation on Mound A.
Another observation of the top is that the part that I'm standing on now is higher than the part over there. Archaeologists believe that this is because the preacher's house stood over here and everything else was over there, so that the preacher's house was above everything else.
Kolomokian culture is quite fascinating, but how does it compare to ours? Well, first of all, instead of Mound A, we have the White House and state capitol buildings. But unlike Mound A, no one stands on top of state capitol buildings, and religion is not connected with government. Basketball is actually very similar to the games played on Mound B. Mound D and Mound E are very similar to modern burial monuments such as Arlington Cemetery. And Mound F is just like a modern-day stage. I hope you have enjoyed the tour of the Kolomoki Mounds, the biggest, oldest, and best mounds in the Southeast United States.